Let's see what the Rambam says here. Uh, the Rambam says in the ninth halacha of Temidin UMusafin that you have to have sheep on hands. Why need a lot of sheep? Because that's what the Tamid is made out of. This Tamid is one lamb in the morning, one lamb in the afternoon, and on Shabbos there's two more sheep. By the time Rosh Chodesh rolls around, you'll need seven more sheep and a few more animals. But generally speaking, the most necessary animal in the Beis Hamikdash is the sheep, the lamb in its first year. Keves ben shana. Ein pulchatin mishishat tlaim amavukarin b'lishkata tlaim shabamikdash. We never have on hand less than 6 lambs that have been checked. Why are they checked for? Well, ostensibly blemishes. You can't check them internally because there's no way to do that, at least back in the day. You want to check them internally to make sure they're not trephas. But blemishes are visible on the outside. So you want to make sure they don't have blemishes. And they kept this in the Lishkata Tlaim Shema Mikdash, basically the room where they kept lambs. Lambs, in order to survive, basically need what? Really need pasture, but you can keep them in a room for a few days. So what do you feed them? Yeah, you give them hay, water and hay, basically. Right? And you have to clean up after them, of course. Okay. They should be ready before the day that they're actually offered as sacrifice. Bar-Hayim, 4 days. Okay, 3 full days to check them. Even though they check an individual lamb from the outset, they bring him into the Beis Hamikdash, they check him right then and there. Nothing's going to happen to him if he's just staying there. The lambs don't fight with each other so much, right? They're not going to ram their heads into the walls. No one's going to go harm them. So nothing should happen to them. They did not slaughter this tamid until they checked him a second time before the slaughter. Okay, first thing in the morning, check the lamb, make sure it's flawless. Wait a minute. They check the tamid basically right before sunrise. So they're bringing him out. It's a little bit dark out. So how do they check the lamb? Torchlight. Nowadays, of course, there would be, electric lights, fluorescent lights like we have here, which is a lot better. That's how they would check it. The question is, would they have a chumrah to do, let's say, MRIs and CAT scans, things like that, some sort of ultrasound, check the lambs internally to make sure they wouldn't end up being trephas? On the one hand, you could say the halacha never required such a thing. But then again, this would solve a lot of problems. Sometimes, for example, on Pesach, you slaughter a lamb, and what happens? It's a treifa. That's gone. It's not kosher. And you have to take it out of the Beis Hamikdash and burn it. So you don't want that to happen to the korban tamid. It's a waste. So it might be smart to, if we had technology, basically give a general ultrasound test of these lambs to make sure they don't have, the usual trephas in them. Okay, I don't know. We'll see what the Beis Din decides to do. And we also, they would give him a drink from a golden cup of water. Golden cup. Why golden? Does the lamb care what the cup is made out of? Mokum aniyus, mokum ashirus and aniyus. Everything in the Beis Hamikdash was done fancy, so they used golden vessels. So they gave the lamb a drink from this golden vessel. Kadeshia noach lev shape. That'd be easier to skin the lamb. Apparently, if the lamb was well hydrated, its skin would come off easily after this whole process. They say that when humans don't drink when they're dehydrated, their skin becomes more flabby. Flabby, it looks like hanging off of them. Yeah, like there's a doctor who said, one of the girls, felt the stomach. See, the skin's like this. She needs to drink more. Dehydration. Okay. The process of the morning lamb is the same as the afternoon lamb. And they do the same thing, same process, same thing, except different time of day. And it all is exactly as we described how to make a burnt offering, as we said in the section called Maaser Korbanot, which was the previous section. That which I'm reading on the screen is not the same as I have down here. This is a little bit controversial here. It says they wouldn't tie up the lamb so that they not do like the minim. Who are the minim? Well, animal sacrifice, like we said last week, was sort of a very human thing. There are other cultures that also sacrificed lambs. So what did they do? They used to tie it up, its forelegs and its hind legs in a certain way, before they slaughtered it. Sometimes it would be even easier. Sometimes you shecht an animal, you turn the animal upside down. Have you ever seen, there's video at the kosher slaughterhouse, they want to slaughter a bull. So to walk over to the bull and just start slicing the bottom side of its neck is kind of difficult, right? Especially the bull might even fight back and then you'll get injured. So they have this thing, the bull walks into this metal device and suddenly it's a drum. It closes around the bull and then it rotates the bull upside down so that the bottom side of its neck is exposed. Basically a big metal restraint and turn the bull upside down. So you'd imagine that if you had to slaughter this lamb, the easiest way to do it is tie up its legs and put the lamb on its back and then, easiest to do. So you're not supposed to do that. That's what the minim do, the heretics. Ella ochazin yadav raglav bidehen. The Kohanim hold the lamb's arms and legs. But it doesn't mean arms and legs. It means yadayim means the four legs, and the raglayim is the hind legs. V'cheach haita akedatzo. And that's how they would basically bind it. And akeda means binding something that you're going to slaughter. Roshoda ladarom ufanav lamarav. Its head is basically facing south. It means the tuch is to the north, head is the south, and because it's the north side of the mizbeach, basically head is facing the mizbeach, that hind side is to the north, but they turn its face to the west, right? So which means turn it to its right. Okay. Now this is not exactly the way everybody agrees what the Rambam said. First of all, who was holding on to it? And then they talked about the tabaot that they would actually have a way. There was a new idea that they had in second Beis Hamikdash that there were these rings sticking out of the floor of the Beis Hamikdash that could catch the animal's feet. That would hold it still. So we'll get into that. But first, the notes say, it's a good one because it's good to read the notes before reading the Ravid. According to the Mefarish and the Rush and the Ra'av, Hakfita shalem medubar kshirata daim zelazeh v'raglayim zelazeh. Okay, when it says tying, that means tie the front legs to each other and the hind legs to each other, two and two in back, two in front. Oh, kshirata arbatam yachad, tying all four legs together, what they call hog tie. Okay, you've heard about hog tie. Sometimes they even do this to restrain really violent criminals. What you do is you pull the hands behind the back and the feet behind the back and tie them like that. So they do that. Hayu koshrim yad yamin the regel yamin, the yad small the regel small. Okay, right leg to right hind leg to right foreleg, left leg to left foreleg. Different ways of tying. So it's a machlokas what they actually do. The Ravid says, let's read the Ravid. Ani shamati shema yitztayer b'chvitato v'yifarkes ad shiatil mum be'echad me'avarav. The Rambam said, why don't you tie up the animal before you slaughter it? He said, because that's what the minim do. It's apikourses. We don't want to copy the way they do their avodah zarah. The Ravid said, I don't know about that reason. I thought it's that the animal doesn't start struggling and maybe bump itself and give itself a moon if you tie it up. So you have other Kohanim hold it. Uvegamara the Tamid, Matzanu, the Fligi Rav Yehud, Rav Huna, Rav Chisda. In Tamid, we actually have a machlokas, Rav Huna, Rav Chisda. They were Amoraim. Chadomar Mishum Bizyon Kodashim. One said it's a bizayon to the kachim to tie it up. Okay? Just hold it down somehow. The Chadomar Mishum Chukei Haminim. One said no, that because that's what the minim do. Don't do it because that's what they do. The Sharsha Tamarishon who bizyon Kodashim. It could be that this first reason is bizyon kodshim. Okay, this first idea that I had, you don't want to is bizyon kodshim to tie it down. Maybe it'll cause a moon. I don't know what's wrong with tying it. How is that chukei haminim? Okay, is that what they do specifically? I don't know. So the Ravid has a different perspective than the Rambam in this regard. Okay. Interesting. Well, once again, I wonder what they're going to do tomorrow in the Beis Hamikdash. I don't know if they're even prepared for all these things. I don't think there's a serious. In order to build a Beis Hamikdash, they asked, "You need a king? No, you need a Sanhedrin. You need to iron out all the halakha problems." Like Rabbi Avigdor Miller said, Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan said, "We can't go ahead with doing anything before we get the halakha down pat." Rabbi Borstein was here this week. Rabbi Menachem Borstein's the head of Machon Shilo. So he was visiting on Shabbos. And a shout out, his son has a book we put on the screen. What was the name of it? Here, I'll put it here because I got a copy of it. Rabbi Borstein was here for Shabbos, so he was speaking about various things. What's his current activities? Rabbi Borstein is he's trying to get the paraduma going. They have paradumas, right? So they have to process it in order to do Torah. I showed him a picture in the Rambam you have. The Makbili Rambam has a mimer in the back, in the appendix, about paraduma b'yameinu. And there it shows Rabbi Mordechai Eliyahu and Rabbi Yisrael Ariel and Rabbi Borstein at the refet, it means the place where they keep the cows, and they were trying to breed red cows. And the picture was taken some 30 years ago. So Rabbi Borstein showed up. I showed him, look, here's you in the book. What's with the red cows? Why don't you have a red cow already? Why does it take, just do it already? It says, until now, they never actually had a perfect red cow. Why? Because you have to check every single hair. And if it has a single hair that's not red, so the cow is invalid. But now they finally have one. They're getting ready to do it this year. So I was very happy. So I asked him, what? Well, to process it, they're going to have to, to get a Kohen and do the whole thing, like it says in the halacha. Yeah. But then they'll make it available for Am Yisrael. Well, yes, the Kohen. So they had to find a Kohen who's never been contaminated before, and they already found their guy. It was in the news. Yes, I addressed this before that there was Goyim in Chutz La'aretz, commentators who say that these Messianic Jews are trying to force some sort of apocalypse by bringing a red cow to the land of Israel. It's not apocalyptic. We're not trying to do anything. We're just going to have Tuman Torah finally. We're going to be able to cleanse ourselves. I'm trying to find it. I'm trying to find a picture of his cover of the book. Okay, you don't see it, but either Rabbi Bornstein is very proud that his son wrote a book about this. I have it at home. It's very good. It's basically written like this for the type of stuff we're studying. What are they going to do in the Beis Hamikdash on a daily basis? Basically, luach for the Beis Hamikdash. So I asked him if he had ever been to the Beis Hamikdash because he hangs out with the types, especially Rabbi Ariel and others, who usually are of that stripe. And he said he's not going to go until he does like Rabbi Mordechai said and prepares the paraduma ashes, and then he can purify himself for 2 masmes, and then it won't be a problem. Then he could go. So he's actually working on this. God bless him. And also he's helping, what? I don't know. But they're really intent on doing this. So, also aside from the fact that his day job is to help, the infertile couples. When I first met him 5 years ago, this is before Corona times, basically, Machon Pua, they were dealing with couples with fertility problems. Yes, they have Kohen Miuchas and Big Kahuna. They have that already, thank God. So they were, a lot of couples have this problem. So they went to Machon Pua. So the Machon Pua people are already dealing with medical issues and halacha. And what did they discover a few years ago? That people started asking their questions regarding end of life halacha, life support types of things, and also halacha Shabbos. Anything that basically involves knowledge of the scientific or the medical matters and the halacha. So they branched out. So that became, okay, what are you going to do? He liked to stick to nida and fertility, but he got pushed into this. And on the side, they're doing things by preparing for the Beis Hamikdash. So I think it's a wonderful position in which to find oneself. What? If someone does not want to purify himself, he doesn't want to go to mikveh, he doesn't want to sprinkle with the ashes of the paraduma, then he just will not be able to visit the temple or you touch him.
Yeah, but then he might touch something.
So when you want to purify yourself to go to the Beis Hamikdash, you have to stay away from people like that.
Yeah, from all of the
Yeah.
All of the whatever they touch, you're not allowed to touch maybe selling the dogs.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if the furniture of the bus is makabel tuma. If it's not made out of metal or wood, if it's made out of or usual the old materials, if it's made out of synthetic materials, it's not makabel tuma. Yeah, synthetic materials are not makabel tuma because they never had a gzera that they're makabel tuma. Yeah, plastic. You can't. Only certain materials receive tuma. They're susceptible to tuma. Metal, wood, linen, wool, woven fabrics. No, because that's not gidule karka. It has to be gidule karka that's not makabel tuma. Plastic is not gidule karka. No, you need both factors. You could have gidule karka that is makabel tuma. It has to be gidule karka, palush, and not makabel tuma. 3 factors. Those are all independent factors. You could have a talush that's gidule karka but is makabel tuma.
Yeah,
then you can't use it. So it's not just the fact that it's not makabel tuma. It also has to be gidule karka, and it has to be talush, not mechuber, and it has to be, non-susceptible. If you take wood, just plain old pieces of wood like we do, basically eitzim, so that's schach. But if you form the eitzim into implements called kalim, now you can no longer use them for schach, right? So you can't use plastic for schach. It's not gidule karka. Also, Bar-Hayim. Bar-Hayim, some of them are, as long as they're alive, none of them are makabel tuma, but they're not gidule karka. And when they're dead, some are makabel tuma, some aren't. It depends on a list of circumstances. Are they food? Okay, or are they inherently tame because they were nevela, right? So it's a question. My point is that synthetic materials cannot be makabel tuma because the Torah never told us that they're makabel tuma, and Chazal never made a gezerah that they're makabel tuma, so they're not. And not only that, Chazal told us there's certain materials that are accepted. Anything that you come from the sea, whether animal, vegetable, or mineral, anything you draw from the sea is not makabel tuma. Also, anything that fell from the sky. So meteoritic metal. There's iron in a meteorite. You use that iron to make implements. They're not makabel tuma because they came from a meteorite. Anything extraterrestrial from the sea, what? No, they come from the sea. Well, once it's food, it could be makabel tuma. Fish themselves are not makabel tuma.
But if you make out of it skin, like
yeah, exactly. Skins does not. It's not makabel tuma because it came from the sea. Yeah, isn't that crazy? Beged or Chazal saw in the Torah, it's talking about beged. Beged is made out of wool or linen. They also say, technically speaking, you can only get tzara'as on beged, on wool or linen, but other things like cotton can receive tuma, right? And also leather or skin. Yeah. But it has to be skin of an animal that lived on this earth. If it was the skin of a fish, okay, there are ways to do it. So you can make, you make a dolphin skin or shark skin stuff. So that's a pretty good way to do it. My point was, I would tell people for Pesach, you go to mikvah. You don't want to become a sheni latuma either. You want to avoid tumas mishkav and tumas moshav. Oh, well, what are you going to do? The odds are the chairs in your house are made out of wood or some other material, and a nida set on them. Your very bed, might have been contaminated at a certain point. So what do? So make sure to only sit on keter chairs. If you sit on keter chairs, all different types of plastic and the cushions also on the chairs are made of synthetic materials. Or you sit on park benches. Even they're made of wood or metal, they're mechuber l'karka, so they don't contaminate you. You eat on a keter table, that's plastic.
If I sit on a wooden chair, I have plastic on top of it.
Not exactly. Some tumas just go through. All right. Yeah, it's a problem. So stick to keter, basically. That's why, of course, by the way, in this country, everything's made out, the furniture is made out of plastic because of tumantara purposes. If you're worried about your glass plates and your metal cutlery, also for Korban Pesach, it has to be pure. So what do? Use chad pami stuff, plastic. Okay, and we have gezeros for tumantara. We obey gezeros chazal. We also have tumas yadayim, things you touch, which leads me to the last point about this, that you don't need to wear gloves. You have to dunk your hands in the mikvah before you eat the kachim. Okay, that's what you're supposed to. It's to vilas yadayim. Make sure not to touch anything. Well, if what?
If someone is coming to touch the alcohol,
so don't let people or tmeis touch your sacrificial food. They have to purify before they touch it. Unless it's Pesach, Tuma Hutra B'Tzibur, Dechuya B'Tzibur, we don't look at the Tumas Mace. We just look at the other forms of Tuma. Okay? So, yeah, if you have Paraduma, so people will have to start purifying themselves. We'll make sure that if we wash the apples and we make them, mukhshar to receive Tuma, that no one touches them. And that leads me to saying I was reminded of. Chazal said that there's a gzera of B'tzilas Yadayim. Why? They want people basically to keep clean. And they also say that Amaratzim, if you want to be a chaver, you have to avoid Amaratzim. Why? Because they don't keep the laws of Tumatara. They don't know about contamination. They touch things they shouldn't with unclean hands, and they spread contamination whatever they do. So I've seen this. Amaratzim don't know about washing hands even for hygienic purposes. They're not the same thing. Tumatara aren't necessarily hygiene. But the type of people, let's say, make toilet or change diapers and then do not wash their hands, if they're amaratzim with regards to basic cleanliness and hygiene, odds are they're amaratzim with regards to tumantaro. They don't, if you're aware of what your hands are doing, so you did Netilas Yadayim, you won't go and touch other stuff before you touch your bread or you touch your truma. You'll eat it with clean hands. So a chaver, a type of person who keeps these halachas, knows to keep his distance from Amaratzim, not to eat with them. Like the Rambam says, you want to be a Talmud Chacham, don't eat with the Amaratzim, because just like they don't know the laws of Tumantara, there's a lot of things they don't know, though. The sages basically protecting us when they created these laws of Tumas Kedayim and spreading Tuma, they're protecting us from even worse things. Yeah, food poisoning, really unhygienic food. If you see something that's not clean, physically clean, the odds are it's probably not ritually clean either. That's just how it goes. Let's see another halacha here. We're over here. The morning Tamid was slaughtered on the northwest corner of the Beis HaMitbachayim. There's a picture here in the Korean that you could see. Northwest corner of Beis HaMitbachayim. Beis HaMitbachayim was north side of the Mizbeach, where they did most of the slaughtering, where the rings were. The rings were in the ground. Al Tabachnia on the second hook. And they show this, by the way. So that's actually a machlokas Rashi and Tosfos. Second from which direction? Second from the left or second from the right? There's 4 rows going from west to east. In the picture they have, the south is on this side, north is on this side. This is where the Mizbeach is. This is where the north side of the Mizbeach, where the Beis HaMitbachayim is. So there's 4 rows of rings, and they're talking about the top row, the top column over here. Sorry, 4 columns, the top row. So this is the northwest. So north is north side of this back. West is toward the Azara. That's the top of this picture. And like I said, and I can put this on the screen. Let me see, make sure everybody can see this. I can't see myself. Okay, look. Yeah, so they basically say these are the rows. The top side over here is west. This way is south. That's where the ramp of the altar is. That's north. North side of the altar is where they have all these rings. So basically, they do it somewhere up here. Machlokas is on Aleph or on Bet. Okay. Okay. In the afternoon, it was on the east, the northeast side. So it's on the north side. In the morning, it's on the west, and in the afternoon, it's on the east. Why is that? Opposite the sun. In the morning, the sun itself is in the east. So you'll get more sunlight. Not like that matters like how much sunlight. I'm trying to say that you'll be more exposed to the sun if you're on the west side of the north side. And in the afternoon, the sun is on the west. So if you want more sun on the korban, so you do it more toward the east. You put it more to the east. Even though it is likely that at that time, especially in the winter, that it's actually sitting in the shadow of the temple. Okay? The temple itself, second Beis Hamikdash times, was 100 amos tall. So it casts a shadow halfway through the afternoon. If you're doing this, let's say at 2:30, the 2:30 afternoon is when they're slaughtering it. Some days, especially the winter, the sun is already more than halfway down in the sky. So the shadow of the temple is going to be longer than 100 amos at that point. If the sun is exactly at 45-degree angle, so the shadow of the temple is 100 amos. So it's going to be in the shade anyways, unless they're a little bit to the north or to the south, depending on which direction the sun exactly is. But either way, that's what they used to do. Divrei Kabbalah hein shuna shchatin keneged hashemesh. Okay, it is a Kabbalah. We have this tradition that the slaughter of the Korban and Tamid should be opposite the sun. Yiraucha im hashemesh. Yeah. No, it's just whatever. It's just where the sun is shining. It's usually not, it's for the slaughter aspect. And then they go ahead and they skin it and they take out the entrails and everything like that on the table. No, right then. Okay. The act of slaughtering has to be in the sunny spot. But the rest of it doesn't have to be. By the way, the Azara didn't really have that much shade. So if it was a sunny day, all this happened in the sun. Don't forget, they did this avodah of the Beis Hamikdash in the winter. Many winter days, even if it's sunny, it's not exactly that cold. But then again, we have a tradition. The meat of the sacrifices did not spoil. Didn't become the temple enjoyed special divine protection, even though there's a lot of animals, a lot of blood, a lot of meat. Basically, have you ever been to a slaughterhouse? Beis Hamikdash was basically like a slaughterhouse. The Rambam says that they had to wash it and burn ketores, make it smell good. But yeah, it wasn't really a problem back then. Okay, we look forward to seeing these halachas put into action. God willing, we'll see the temple restored and speeding our days. Nitzachon, Shalom, should experience this all speedily very soon. Have a Shabbat Shalom. Be well.
We would like to encourage our viewers to share these videos with friends and send in your responses. If you would like to obtain Birkon Nusach Eretz Yisrael or invite the rabbi for a speaking engagement, please email us at office@machonshilo.org.